How's it going? Welcome back, my wise ones, to another great video today, because we're taking a look at Nioh 3, the king of Soulslikes. That's right.
Goddamn right.
So welcome back, my wise ones. I do hope you're having a fantastic day and or night, and you're just having a relaxing time. Grab yourself a snack, a beverage, and let's take a look at Nioh 3 in this Nioh 3 review. Now, for many people, Nioh is a very difficult game, and for that reason alone, a lot of people bounce off this title, even though it's probably got the best mechanics in any Souls-like. That's why it's got such a hardcore fan community, that actually elevates the Souls-like experience. I often say, we see too many Souls-likes that just don't try anything new, and they are basically just blatant rip-offs of Dark Souls, Elden Ring. But Nioh has always had its own visual identity, its own gameplay identity, and it's just a very unique game. So what makes Nioh 3 different from other Souls-likes and the other previous Nioh games? Well, like I said, it is these now open levels, but it's not just with the open levels, it's also the difficulty and the balancing of how the gameplay is structured this time around, because it's much more open world-esque or open zone. It kind of goes for that Elden Ring design philosophy, and if a boss is too difficult or an enemy is too strong, you can go off, explore, and gain powers and level up in more easier areas or fighting easier enemies. So it does have a little bit of grind to it, that is my only complaint, but there's just so much more here compared to the previous games that for fans of Elden Ring and are looking for that kind of Elden Ring experience, but with the flavor of Nioh, I think this is the perfect hybrid. Now, Nioh has very obvious weak points for their enemies, and this is very useful because the enemies themselves are very tough in this game, and they have a lot of damage to them. And there are so many unique, gameplay elements to the Nioh franchise, like key pulse, how you level up, the skill point system, the different stances with your weapons, because it's not just one weapon, you actually have multiple different weapons and they all have their own unique stances. On top of that now, there's ways to get back your stamina with key pulses. I think that was in the previous games as well, but the stances just add so much to the gameplay, an upper stance, a lower stance, and then you have two other stances. So it's pretty insane stuff, the amount of, different ways just to fight in this game. And then on top of that, now you have the different modes. You have the ninja mode, and then you have the samurai mode, and you can switch back and forth between them, and this changes the gameplay a lot. So I'm going to get into the positives and negatives and give you a detailed Nioh 3 review. So make sure you give the video a like, that really does actually help a lot. I don't normally ask, but apparently it does, so I really do appreciate it. Subscribe if you are new and you're not already a wise one. If you're not, I don't know what you're doing. And I just want to say thank you. I really do appreciate just the wise ones and this community growing. I love doing OG YouTube and just having more and more people join the channel and get involved in the community. It's a really special thing. I don't want it just to be another gaming slop channel, so I really do hope you enjoy this content.
Let's go already!
Now, I was fortunate enough that I got to play this at a press event in Tokyo, at the Tokyo Game Show. I will be showing some of my gameplay footage here. Alright, so we're here, we're gonna test out Nioh 3, which is like a Souls-like. It's one of the most popular ones, to be honest. So we're gonna see how difficult it is, and if we can clear it, we get like a t-shirt or something. So we're gonna try it out, and I'll let you know how good it is. Here's exclusive gameplay. Now, that was a very cool experience. It was nice to actually talk with some of the developers as well. I completely sucked at the game, and I have played it a bit more since then, but this is going off of all of the early access stuff and the gameplay that I've actually played myself at the press event. So this is not the full game, but a lot of gameplay that I have already seen and played. So the first positive, and this is a big one, is the switch between ninja gameplay and the samurai gameplay. Think of that Assassin's Creed game, but it's actually good. That's the big difference. So now, you know, you actually have a double jump, so there's a lot more platforming in some of the levels, which I really like, but it's not like changing characters, it's an instant swap, so you can just hop back and forth, and it encourages you to do it mid-fight because you get a special, you know, parry bonus or higher damage attacks, so there's a lot to think about. That's why this game is very difficult, but I really do love that, you know, two different flavors of gameplay merging together. That's something quite special and fluid compared to something like Assassin's Creed. Obviously, they're very different games, but I do like that they've added that. Stealth as well becomes a lot more easier now with dedicated, you know, crouching and kind of stealth mechanics, but it's that constant switching back and forth that always keeps you on your toes, and that's something you have to think about a lot. Now, this is a bit of a mixture, a positive and a negative, I would say. And that is just simply the amount of loot. A lot of people complained, you know, about the loot system in Nioh, and sadly they haven't really addressed it. You still get tons and tons of loot. I guess some people like it, you know, if you are a loot goblin.
Are you serious?
But some of us, you know, we feel a little bit overwhelmed. I'm kind of on that side of things. I don't like receiving too much stuff constantly, but this game chucks a lot of stuff at you, so just bear that in mind. It hasn't really been fixed. But the next big positive is just the level design itself. So like I said, it's gone full kind of semi-open world. That doesn't make much sense. So it's gone semi-open world is what I'm trying to say. Jesus Christ, the gamer brain rot is real. But yeah, so now, you know, you're not gonna be exploring a massive open world like Elden Ring, but the levels themselves are massive now, and in them you will find different bosses, and then you can play it kind of again in these crucible modes, and this is where difficulty is just insane. Basically, you know, that's where you will find the most hardest bosses, and even normal enemies are super buffed in this area. You won't actually regenerate your health. That's actually always like on a damage kind of Demon Souls you know, like buff, so the damage you take, you can't get that health back. So I like that kind of Dark Souls kind of element of it, but you know, the difficulty is a little bit too insane, I will say that, but a lot of people will like it. This is nothing like Dark Souls, especially when you compare it to the OGs like 1 and 2. It's so fast. Me personally, I like more slower Souls experiences. That's why I love the first two games. I'm not a huge Elden Ring fan, don't shoot me, but it's a good game. I just prefer the classics. This is a little bit too fast for me, but if you're really good, I'm sure, you know, it's probably a skill issue, but it is incredibly fast, so just bear that in mind, and incredibly difficult. But the fact that the levels themselves have changed now to this kind of semi-style, to this semi-open design, it allows for that flexibility of going off, grinding, getting better gear, and then, you know, progressing that way. To me, this is a huge benefit and a big positive, because for other games, I felt like sometimes I just kind of hit a wall with those games, but this time, now that I can actually go off and explore, I get experience points as well for exploring, and then I can, you know, progress at my own pace. It's a lot better, and the level design is pretty well done, I would say. A lot of verticality to it now, with the more platforming elements, some, you know, backtracking and stuff like that, and then you have the kind of time travel element of it, where locations will kind of vary a lot, so it does add a nice, you know, variation of art style. And that brings me on to my next point, and that is a negative. This is more of a subjective point, I guess, not an objective one, but I'm not a big fan of the art style of Nioh. I love Japanese, you know, mythology and, you know, just like older historical, you know, periods in Japan, and the art direction that offers. I actually live in Japan, so I know what I'm talking about. And I really love, you know, like the historic period from Edo to the Kamakura period and all this kind of stuff. And when I think of good, solid art direction of, you know, showing off kami and oni and all of these different elements of Japan mythology, you know, I think of games like Kunitsugami, a very underrated one, but they do such a good job. I think the art style of Nioh is just a little bit muddy. The graphics as well look very dated, incredibly dated, I would say. Something out of the PlayStation 4 generation, or even PS3 or Xbox. 360 or something like that. It's just very dated, and that's fine. I don't care about graphical fidelity, but you've got to have good, strong art direction. It does have that in places, but at times it's just like it's throwing everything at you all at once. To me, I'm just not a big fan, but for some people, you probably won't care. Another big positive is the perk tree itself is insane, okay? The amount of, you know, player freedom in this game is truly next level compared to the previous games. And also, it's not always go, go, go. Now, the fact that you can be more of a ninja, it does allow for you to just get past some enemies. You don't have to kill everything. So there is a better pacing as well, I feel, compared to the previous games. Bosses are a huge, huge upgrade this time around. They aren't just, you know, like second stage bosses, you know, fake outs and very spammy attacks. There's so many cool, unique enemies that, you know, just get you out of nowhere, that are just very creative and well designed. And the bosses themselves, you know, play around with the environments, kind of as I was talking about with my Code Vein review, that I feel like the bosses in that game are very stagnant. Here, it's great boss design. And then also they've added just more deeper mechanics like deflecting and stuff like that, which actually will stop you losing health. So there's just so many systems, and for new players, this might all sound a bit daunting, because when you're actually in the gameplay fighting a difficult enemy, there's so many things to remember. So it's a game that you actually have to master. It's not one of those games where you can just pick up and play, and I like that. I don't think every game needs to be for everyone. This is for people who love Dark Souls, who love Elden Ring, and like the more fast approach combat, and who like more fast combat similar to, you know, kind of Ninja Gaiden in some ways, kind of more character action, but with a Souls lock-on system. So it's got a perfect blend of the combat feeling satisfying. I wouldn't say exploration is very interesting, because it's not like a game where you go off and explore. Yes, there is loot to be found, traps to avoid, all of that kind of stuff, but it's not a open world game now. It just means the levels are bigger, so it's got that Elden Ring philosophy behind it, that design philosophy of, you know, going off, fighting something else, and then coming back and continuing with, you know, the main missions and stuff like that. So I just think it's far more polished compared to the previous games, and for Nioh fans, this is definitely the best it's ever been, and I think it's a good, actually, introduction point for new fans of Nioh. So yeah, I think it's a great game. I will preface it by saying it's not for everyone, so just weigh up the pros and cons for yourself. Let me know what you think about Nioh 3 and if you're going to get this game. If you love these early reviews and you enjoy video game analysis, this is the place to be. Subscribe, become a wise one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, in America, UK, Canada, whatever it is. Have a great day, look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.